I take the privilege of welcoming all our members. This is a one of a kind first initiative of Ratlam Society about case presentations, and I expect to learn a lot from our eminent speakers. To start the session, I would like to first invite Dr. Shefali Shah to present her case. Ma'am is a consultant OBGYN, sonologist, and laparoscopic surgeon at Redhan Hospital, Ratlam, and a very good friend of mine. Welcome, ma'am. The stage is all yours.
Thank you.
I would say the mic is all yours these days.
Okay, sure. So first I'll just share my screen. Yes, can you see the screen now?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay. So good afternoon, everybody. And I thank Dr. Neha and everybody present here who gave me the privilege to present my a little short case. So thank you, everybody. And this is the case of herniation of gravid uterus through previous LSCS scar. This was a patient named Lakshmi who visited my clinic 3 months back. She was 30 years of age and resident of a nearby village. She belonged to low socioeconomic status and she presented with complaints of amenorrhea 6 months and lesions over the abdominal skin and pain while she stands. Her obstetric history was she was gravida to para 1 with previous LSCS 3 years back, having a healthy female child. On examination, she was thin, seemingly malnourished. Her vitals were stable, pulse was 88, and BP was 100/60. The important thing to note was her per abdomen examination. She was 24 weeks. Fetal heart rate was regular, but her abdomen was all scarred up and it had ulcerations over it, and the fetal movements were seemingly superficial, like something is coming out type. So this is the picture of her abdomen at 6 months, sorry. And the USG findings, as I did the USG, was a single live fetus of 25 weeks, 3 days in cephalic presentation. Placenta was posterior in the upper uterine segment. And the only peculiar finding that I was able to note was the thickness of the skin or the abdomen was less than 2 centimeters. It was markedly reduced. And the probe seemed to be directly on the uterus. Her investigations were all normal. Hemoglobin was 10.2. And she was advised admission by me, but she refused to get admitted and she absconded that time because I wanted to have her bed rest and manage her skin ulcers, but at that time she absconded. And after 3 months, at the period of lockdown, she went to government college where she was referred to Indore, and she was operated there. And there she happened to be operated in the presence of a surgical specialist. And as I gathered the information, they repaired her hernia after the LSCS operation. So this was the case. So, madam, please comment how I have managed it properly, seniors. Hello? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
तो मैनेजमेंट में आई थिंक आई हैड अ लूपहोल बिकॉज वो मेरे पास only she went there and she got operated. So today I talked to my surgeon friend, तो उसने बोला कि during the time of operation LSCS में ही we should have repaired the hernia and we don't need to put a mesh because after the cesarean the skin and the rectus is already loose. So just repair with Prolene would have done the task. So my question is, can we repair it at 6 months? जब वो मेरे पास आई थी तब क्या मैं उसे रिपेयर कर सकती थी? Dr. Neha?
Hello. Hello.
हाँ, hello.
हाँ, Shefali.
Senior
My
student
opinion is
design.
that, because it was not a very healthy abdominal tissue at that time when she presented to you at 6 months of gestation, I don't think so that it was possible to repair at that particular point. What we
Yes.
needed was good hydration, good nutrition, and good cleaning of the skin. Only then we could have
Yes.
been able to repair it. And that time
Sure.
also, the issue would have been that there was no strength, and further there would be loss of strength as the child would have grown further. And still
Yes,
now also, I don't think so. There is a strong possibility of recurrence. The way the picture looks like, even if it has been repaired postpartum, there is a strong possibility of recurrence of this massive abdominal wall herniation.
yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I talked to one of my surgeons.
Hmm?
So he told me that
Go ahead,
if
Dr.
we'll repair at 6 months, so it will again the mesh will give way because
I know
the
that.
mesh.
So that is what I'm saying. It should
Yes,
have
ma'am.
been later in the postpartum period. Matlab,
Yes,
6
ma'am.
months postpartum is the best time to repair, so that everything is repaired properly and there is no recurrence of herniation. But at right now, along with the cesarean, when it is repaired, there is a strong chance of recurrence of this abdominal wall hernia.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, this is hernia or necrotizing enterocolitis?
No, ma'am. No,
This
hernia
is
because
herniation.
उसको जब अपन देखते हैं ना तो ऐसे लगता है कि जैसे बेबी बाहर ही आ जाएगा. It's all the limbs look कि अभी आने ही वाली है बाहर.
That's
It's
scary,
abdomen.
That's great. That's great, Dr. Shefali. I would
Should
like
I
the
stop?
seniors to opine. Thanks to Dolly ma'am for the advice. This I would we'll have to keep it a point. This is to be repaired 6 months postpartum, right, ma'am?
And we don't have to do anything in the NC except for hydration and maintenance of the skin. So, Dr. Neha, over to you. I'm just stopping sharing my screen.
Yes, senior.
Yes, ma'am. Pardon, ma'am. All the reports were normal, ma'am. I mean, within normal limits.
Any organ is involved in herniation?
No, ma'am. Only the uterus.
Only it was in upper part.
Ma'am, I can't hear you properly.
And Shefali, good
Yes, ma'am.
representation. I am just asking any test involving in this hernia. Is there any report of sonography like this?
No, ma'am. There was no any organ except for the uterus which was coming out.
Okay, so maybe the peritoneum the upper covering may be there only, right?
Ma'am, the rectus sheath has given way. So, rectus sheath के above was the uterus, just above the
What
rectus
is
sheath.
the reason of necrotizing of the skin?
Ma'am, as the patient stands, uterus just falls in the bone. So it is the pressure that causes all ulcers and this thing.
Okay, thank you, Shefali.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everybody, for the patient hearing.
स्टार्ट शेयरिंग क्या ना आ रहा है स्लाइड्स दिखते
Good morning, ma'am.
अपन दूसरा
Dr. Subhadar, ma'am.
Hello.
Dr. Vedai.
Hi, ma'am. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning,
Ma'am.
ma'am.
No available camera phone क्यों?
So now we have our next very important speaker with us. Actually, the idea of the session came from Purnima Subedar ma'am only, and I thank her wholeheartedly for this thing. Madam is a consultant OBGYN at Ashirwad Nursing Home. She needs no introduction. She's our mentor. We welcome you, ma'am.
Hello, Neha. Hello, thanks
Hello,
for
ma'am. Good
such
morning.
nice introduction and good afternoon, everybody. I'm so delighted to see everybody's face after such a long time, after 3-4 months. I just thought of sharing this case with all of you because we all deal with this problem day in and day out. That's what the first case. She was a previous 3 LSCS, a book case, was admitted. At 36 weeks, she started having mild pains. So first we gave her the steroids and Divadelon, but still she had pains. So a decision of emergency cesarean was taken. Cesarean was done. There were a lot of adhesions, but still we managed. Cesarean was done, and after cesarean there was profuse bleeding. And it was not controlled with uterotonics also. So right in the OT only we took decision of hysterectomy because it was COVID days. Already it was, I think, 11 o'clock in the night. There was no attendant. The patient was almost sinking. Her pulse was 140, BP came down to 90. So we did her hysterectomy. In total, the next slide. Yeah, then yeah, her total we gave her 6 unit of Paxils and 3 unit of FFP. She was shifted to ICU. She was stable. The next day morning she was fine, but still her pulse rate was about 120, BP were between 90 to 60. She was maintaining the saturation also. Urine output was also adequate. The next day we did her hemoglobin, and again it was 7 grams, and her pulse rate was still 120. So we thought of giving her 2 units of blood more, 2 unit Paxils and 1 unit FFP. Then on 8th, we gave her 2 units Paxils and 1 unit FFP. So those 2 units finished by the time I think it was 3 or 4 o'clock. She was still in ICU. We were monitoring her SpO2. At about 10 o'clock, her SpO2 started falling. It came down to 80. We gave her oxygen. She was still maintaining oxygen, but I talked to Dr. Nivedita Dashure. She said, Madam, your patient is developing TRALI, that is transfusion-related acute lung injury, and she will need ventilatory support. So I was really frightened. So in ICU only, we started BiPAP. For 48 hours, she was kept on BiPAP. Then she became normal and she was discharged after 7 days. So I just wanted to discuss you regarding TRALI because I am in obstetric, I think, since 1978. And in my 48 years in obstetric as a student, this was my first case of transfusion-related acute lung injury. This is an immune-mediated acute transfusion reaction. This occurs within 2 to 6 hours, and this is more with plasma donors, and the reaction occurs between patient's plasma and donor's granulocyte. The incidence reported is 1 in 10,000, but still some people, they say that 10,000 is underreporting and the incidence is 1 in 1,000 to 1 in 2,500. This occurs more where massive transfusion is given, long stored blood products are given, patient already has thrombocytopenia or there is chronic alcohol abuse, and whenever multiple donors are involved. And this is more seen in blood products like FFP, cryoprecipitate or platelet transfusion. This occurs within 2 to 6 hours. The patient complains of fever. There is tachycardia, tachypnea, and decrease in oxygen saturation. Classically, there are signs of pulmonary edema, and if not detected early, even other organ dysfunction like kidney failure also develops. In investigations, when we'll do, there'll be leukopenia, there'll be decrease in platelet count, and X-ray will show a classical feature like ARDS. And the treatment is, as soon as it is diagnosed, immediately oxygen should be given and she should be kept on ventilatory support. No circulatory overload, no further blood products, ventilatory support with pressure ventilation with oxygen, steroids should be given and diuretics should be given. It takes almost 48 hours. Slowly we wean off the patient and the patient became all right. But still, when I read in literature, it has a high mortality. So should be detected early. So my take home message to everybody is that whenever we give massive transfusion, especially blood products also, that particular patient for at least for another 24 hours, her oxygen saturation should be very closely monitored. That is very important, because if it is detected early and if we start treatment early, naturally the outcome is better. If it is detected late, then this definitely has mortality. Ideally, in my case also, she was to be shifted to Indore, but I had no choice, because that time, because of COVID situation, all the hospitals of Indore were almost not available. The beds were not available for other patients. So I had to manage her here only. Ideally, these patients of Trali should be referred to higher center for ventilatory support and expert care. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. This was really a case to be discussed with all, because a really scary one, and we couldn't have diagnosed it. Now that you have told us, maybe sometime it could come to our mind. Otherwise, probably we have never seen as such. You have never seen in 48 years. So
this was my first case rather.
Hopefully, I don't want to see also.
Nobody wants to see, but it's just a matter of chance.
Yes. But this is a really difficult situation, ma'am. But the hemoglobin of the patient is dropping, and we cannot transfuse her blood. How is the patient going to be saved?
In this patient only, I'll tell you one more thing. She was a villager. She came from village. Only her husband was there. There was no attendant. And I needed blood, at least 6 to 8 units of blood. So I just ramped up in the police thana of this Hatki Chowki, that please send somebody for my help, because it is already a lockdown situation. There is no attendant. My patient is critical. She has come only with her husband. So it is really good on their part that 2 constables came here. Then I instructed them and they arranged blood and everything for her. Throughout the night, they were just running from blood bank and our nursing home. They were really otherwise it would have been very much more difficult for me to manage that patient. Really, those police department constables helped me a lot.
That's also one.
Good morning, madam.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's a nice case and a very good take-home message that in case of such situation, we should take help of the administration. And secondly, when we give blood products, we are at a peace that, yes, we will not have any trouble because we are not giving whole blood. But that is not the situation. Even with blood products, as you have mentioned, is a common feature.
Yeah, in this condition, the reaction occurs between patient serum and donor's granulocyte. So ideally, they say that whenever a patient gets Trali, the blood bank authority should be informed to recross the blood. But here we gave her 8 units of blood. So they will have to cross match with 8 donors against the patient's plasma. So practically it is something not possible at our setup. So ideally they do recross matching in such conditions.
Okay. But thankfully our blood bank people are good.
Yeah,
in emergency they provide blood without the donor also.
Yeah, without exchange, without money, they provide blood.
So without money also, ma'am?
Yeah, The attendant didn't pay anything. I just requested the blood bank authorities to provide blood. Everything will be settled the next day morning. And they gave 8 units of blood and 6 blood and 3 FFP.
That's great. That's commendable. We should be thankful to them.
Yeah, definitely. To them and the police personals as well.
And the police, yes, ma'am. About the police, I heard it for the first time that police can be called and they come for help. That was the great part.
Because it was lockdown situation. So even other patients also, there was only one attendant with everybody. So whom to send there? That was a very big question.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the nice
Thank
presentation.
you for the patient listening, and thank you, everybody.
And just madam, heavy bleeding after the cesarean. What is the cause? Hello.
Asha ma'am, we can hear you. Please go ahead. No, you have muted yourself. You will have to turn on the mic.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Madam, I am just asking what is the cause of PPH after cesarean in your case?
I could not listen, madam. Please repeat the question.
This was the cesarean hysterectomy, is it?
Yeah.
What is the cause of reason for the hysterectomy?
No, after the cesarean was done, I closed the abdomen also. But after closing, we always slightly press the uterus and see for the bleeding. So that time there was profuse bleeding. I gave her all the uterotonics like Prostodin 250, 20 units, Gynotoxin drip, Mithargin and Misoprost 1000. Everything was done. I waited for another 15 minutes also. But still again there was a severe bout of blood. Her pulse rate was almost 140 to 160. Her BP was falling. It was 80. And it was, and looking towards the situation, it was already a 4th cesarean. She had 3 previous children. This was her 4th child. So then I just counseled the husband and he was also willing. So we did a hysterectomy.
Okay, so it is the atonic PPH. Right?
Yeah, it was atonic.
And
there were a lot of adhesions also. It took almost, I think, 1 hour to do subtotal hysterectomy. The whole of her uterus was all adherent on left side.
Okay. So in this case, have you done the tubectomy also?
No, hysterectomy I have done. So what's the need of it?
Previous one.
No. I never do tubectomy with Caesar because she was already having lot of adhesions. So those adhesions were removed. In such cases, always the post-operative period is very torrential. So why unnecessarily to increase our adrenaline secretion? I never do tubectomy in cesarean. Never. If a patient is not willing in 3rd Caesar that madam, if you won't do TT, I say you go to somebody else and get it done. I will not do it.
Okay. This is
as a rule. I don't do it.
Okay. This.
But ma'am, why? What is the reason for this?
Reason of
Not doing TT.
Not doing TT.
Not doing TT.
Usually, according to the statistics, also when we do it with after Caesar, the chances of failure is more. And usually, what happens? These patients, not only after Caesar only, otherwise also after getting tubectomy, they are very sure that now nothing will happen. And if anything happens, they are on your head that I got my TT done by you only. I had such 2-3 very bitter experiences. One of my patient after TT, she had ectopic and she was on my head that madam, you have done it and now I have ectopic. So I had to inform the Dr. Manju Singh also कि madam, please take care of that patient. So she took lot of care. She did it immediate laparotomy and everything. But after that 2-3 bitter experiences, I never do TT.
Yes,
if it is interval, it is okay, but not after Caesar. And according to government rules also, TT should not be done with any other surgery. That is what the government rules say. So why should we flout the government rules?
Madam, have you read the government rule anywhere? Because we had a previously also discussed the government hospital that
Madam, government doctors can do.
cesarean.
They are working under a umbrella. So they can do.
And then existing.
Hello, voice is not clear.
Yes,
हेलो
हेलो,
हाँ मैडम
हाँ, आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही है. हेलो,
वाईफाई नहीं भाई, ये तो मोबाइल चल रहा है. अच्छा अच्छा, चलो ठीक है. हाँ क्या करूँ? हाँ, कुछ भी बताइए, हम सब चालू कर दीजिए. आप 30 सेकंड. गुड मॉर्निंग लीला जोशी मैम. नहीं मैडम, what are you saying about the should be done with the system or not? Leela Joshi ma'am, your mic is mute. You will have to turn it off. No. Ma'am, your mic is mute.
Hi, Neha ma'am, the mic is unmute. I think there's a problem with the device. That is why she is not able to say anything.
Okay, so what is to be done, Mr. Arjun?
You've shared your number. Please ask Leela Joshi ma'am to call that number.
Contact you?
No, call that number. I have shared your number. So
My
just
number.
I have number. I have shared you one number. It is a landline number.
Okay.
Starts with 011. So please ask her to dial that number, and then she would be able to speak to all of us.
Fine. I will do that. Thank you. एक्सपीरियंस बिजनेस के साथ रिलेटिव कर सकते हैं. आपको नहीं मिलेगा. बोल रही है पर समझ में नहीं आ रही है. Madam, we cannot hear to you. Yes, okay. Right, thank you. Times are changing. We are not very tech savvy, I guess. So we have these problems off and on. Trying to solve them as fast as I can. Meanwhile, I would like to invite our next speaker, my beloved Dr. Asha Saraf ma'am, consultant Ankur Hospital. Ma'am, I welcome you and would love to hear your case.
Sorry to interrupt. In the meanwhile, Neha ma'am, kindly share Leela Joshi ma'am's number to me. What I'll do is I'll call her and then I'll put it in conference with everyone.
Okay. That okay. Thank you so much. That's Dr. Asha Saraf ma'am, ex-president Ratlam OBGYN Society, presently consultant OBGYN at Ankur Hospital, Ratlam. Dr. Asha ma'am, can start. Asha ma'am.
Asha ma'am, you're mute. Kindly unmute yourself.
Unmute. I did it.
We are able to hear you now.
Yes, we are able to hear you, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Now you're listening. Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, ma'am. Welcome.
Hello. I must congratulate you together, madam. Hello.
Yes,
Hello.
ma'am. You.
Hello, Neha.
Mamle.
चल ही नहीं रहा तेरा में सुना के दे तू
Ma'am, we can hear you.
Neha ma'am, please, please give your phone to Asha. Neha ma'am, please give your phone to Asha ma'am. Your phone is, I think, have.
There are some network issues with Asha ma'am's phone. Meanwhile, I request Dr. Vaidehi to start her topic.
Neha ma'am, please give your phone to Asha ma'am so she can talk to everyone using your phone. I think your phone has a better network.
Yes, I request Dr. Vaidehi to start, please. Meanwhile, I'll solve the issues here. Dr. Vaidehi. नहीं अच्छा तो मैं स्टार्ट कर दिया क्या ओके
तो वो करिए स्लाइड नहीं फिर
अरे ना
स्लाइड भी कर
Okay.
Neha ma'am, should I start again? Hello? Hello?
Yes, Dr. Vaidehi, you are audible. Please start.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
I welcome Dr. Vaidehi, our consultant at Ashirwad Nursing Home, and like she brought a proud to Ratlam by starting the first IVF center at Ratlam. A very dear friend of mine. That's why I could switch over the presenters. And sorry, Vaidehi, for the inconvenience, but please share your topic.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for your wonderful words. My topic is a very common topic, if you say so. It's on postpartum tachycardia, but sometimes it can just drive all of us crazily as an obstetrician. Our patient was a 23-year-old primigravida. She came in full-term labor pains. No augmentation of labor was done for her somehow, and she delivered vaginally, uneventfully, progressed spontaneously. On admission, her vitals were stable. The pulse was 76 per minute, blood pressure 110/70. There was no pallor.
Post delivery, as a routine, we give uterotonics. Same uterotonics were given to her. Episiotomy was given, that was stitched in layers. But immediately, as we keep the patient in labor room for an hour for monitoring, when her pulse was monitored, it came out to be 160 per minute. BP was normal, 110/70. SpO2 was 78%. The patient was comfortable, fully conscious. Her uterus was contracted and bleeding was also normal. Now, as an obstetrician, most common causes of tachycardia we would think of are PPH or shock, dehydration, any associated thyroid disorder, post-delivery pain, anxiety, or any underlying heart disease. With this patient, for PPH, everything was taken care of. Her cervix was explored, there were no tears. Her placenta was expelled spontaneously initially, though her uterine cavity, it was explored, no retained placenta was found. Her episiotomy was healthy. The bleeding was normal, there were no clots. For pain and anxiety, injectable painkillers and sedatives were given to her. She was not dehydrated clinically. There was no associated thyroid disorder. Even after giving her sedatives, her pulse remained around 160 to 170 per minute. Urgent ECG was called for and ECG revealed supraventricular tachycardia. She was shifted to ICU where she was given drugs to revert her arrhythmia, and after 2 days of constant monitoring, she was discharged, and on follow-up there were no complications that were seen. Now, supraventricular tachycardia is something we do not think of at the first instance. Here, the diagnosis was made on ECG. A few words on SVT. This patient had AV nodal reentrant tachycardia. That's a form of supraventricular tachycardia. The cause is not known. It can happen in anybody, anytime. Other causes are if the patient is already hypothyroid, if she has rheumatic heart disease, or if she has ischemic heart disease. The diagnosis is made on ECG, where there are features of supraventricular tachycardia. Absence of P wave is there with a persistent regular interval tachycardia she has, sinus rhythm tachycardia she has. And the treatment is antiarrhythmic drugs, must to be given under supervision of a physician. And if not taken care of or not detected in time, these patients can land up in tachyarrhythmic cardiac failure or cardiogenic shock. Thank you so much. Mummy wants to just add few words on this topic.
Hello. Hello, I want to say something regarding the supraventricular tachycardia, because in last I think 30 or 40 years, I have seen these 3 cases of supraventricular tachycardia. My first case, I still remember, it was on 5th of November 1988. She was a 3rd para, delivered normally. She had tachycardia. So that time we called upon Dr. N.K. Sharma sir. He came, he examined the patient. He said, no, shift the patient to ICU civil hospital. We shifted the patient to ICU civil hospital. Next day morning, I inquired. So they said that she is no more in the night. So that's why I narrated this case, because this has a mortality also if not treated properly and at a correct time. The second case, my supraventricular tachycardia, I remember, she was treated properly. And after that also she used to get supraventricular tachycardia. So they consulted a cardiologist, I think Dr. Yash Lokhandwala or somebody, and she was under treatment. But once an instance happened with her recently, some 1 or 2 years ago. She was from Petlavat. She started from Petlavat and she died in the way. She could not reach Ratlam also. So this has a high mortality. So this should be taken care of. Because whenever there is tachycardia, we obstetrician always think of PPH. So if the bleeding is normal, if there is no dehydration, her urine output is normal, patient is comfortable, the diagnosis comes out to be supraventricular tachycardia. Because this is my 3rd case of SVT. So these things do happen, although very rare, but they do happen. And in this particular condition, if we don't treat it at a proper time, so after 3-4 hours, hypotension occurs, and then the patient goes in shock and it becomes an irreversible shock. So patient should not go to that stage. Before that only it should be reverted. Thank you.
Ma'am, I have a query.
Yeah.
During the antenatal period, you do see these tachycardias. So what is the limit of the pulse rate? See, whether you call it 110 beats per minute or 120 beats per minute, at that point that you should get a ECG or a cardiology evaluation done. So what is the limit in the antenatal
definitely
period?
we should get, because the commoner causes are hyperthyroidism, if there is ischemic heart disease, or if the patient has the tendency. Because my second case which I just narrated, her name was Seema. She just used to say कि मैडम मुझे palpitation होता है, बस तो थोड़ी देर में ठीक हो जाता है. So मुझे ऐसा लगा कि उसको SVT की टेंडेंसी होगी और अपने आप ठीक हो जाता होगा उसका. So such type of cases we do get. So if there is tachycardia, the physician's evaluation or a cardiologist's evaluation must be done. Because in ECG, we most of us, we don't know how to diagnose. We just can say that it is tachycardia, whether it is supraventricular or what it is, that we cannot diagnose. So any case of tachycardia, if there is problem or if it is more than 110, so she must be referred to a cardiologist.
Ma'am, I had a case.
The exact cause.
I had a case who had this sort of a tachycardia, and then she was referred. She actually went to Bombay for a cardiology checkup, and there she was diagnosed. And I think some nerve conduction study was done, and then that nerve was cut.
Yeah, they do ablation also. They do ablation also. Actually, that is the treatment of SVT.
Right. So this was done in the antenatal period.
Yeah. No, second case which I narrated, she got that also done. But in spite of that, again, she had an attack and she died. Second of my case, she got her ablation also done. That's what I said, that in India, that Dr. Yash Lokhandwala is the only person, I think, who is doing it.
Okay, right.
And I guess that is the advantage of this kind of session, that we get to learn a lot from you all. And so many different things which won't even strike to us, like supraventricular tachycardia. We will never think of it unless we have heard it, we have known about it.
Yeah,
is there any relation with use of injection epidosin?
No.
Sorry, ma'am.
No epidosin was given to this patient because epidosin is known to cause tachycardia.
Yes, sir. So, should we give epidosin in labor, or we should avoid it?
No, we do give it once in a while. It occurs. For that, we cannot afford to give it in other 99 patients. This is very rare. And the only thing in diagnosis, a very broad, I can say that there is tachycardia and there is loss of P wave. These 2 points, we can say that this is supraventricular tachycardia. Because in shock, whenever there is tachycardia, what ECG we take, there is tachycardia, but all the waves means PQ, RST, the whole complex is there. In SVT, there is loss of P wave, means the diastolic filling of the ventricles is not there. And because the diastolic filling is not there, so cardiac output is also less. And when cardiac output is also less, the return is also less. And like that, there is a cascade, and these patients, they go in shock.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. We wanted to hear something from Leela Joshi, ma'am. I would request Mr. Arjun to please connect her, if possible, via phone.
Ma'am, just give me a moment. I'll just connect her.
Because we always need words of wisdom from our seniors. Ma'am, could hyperthyroidism be a cause of tachycardia?
Hyperthyroidism. Yeah. Hyperthyroidism, tachycardia is the first symptom, rather. Tachycardia, palpitation, bulging of eyeballs, all these are the symptoms of tachycardia. But if the patient is taking treatment, it is a controlled thing. Then there won't be tachycardia.
And ma'am, these days, I don't know, my personal experience, I am getting a lot of patients with tachycardia. Pulse ranging between 110 to 120.
Anxiety is also. Anxiety is also one of the cause. Nowadays, the patient and doctor, we both are very anxious. They are also very
हाँ,
anxious, and
probably
we
वो
are also
screen और
very
helmet
anxious.
देख के डर जाते होंगे ना.
That's the main thing. Naturally, they have an apprehension that how to come in the night, whether the doctor will be available or not. All those apprehensions are one of the cause.
नेहा डॉक्टर्स को भी टेकिकार्डिया हो रहा है अभी.
हाँ, डेफिनेटली कि कोविड में कम से कम पीएच नहीं होना चाहिए किसी को.
खुद का भी पल्स देख लेना चाहिए हम लोग ने. While dealing this cases, ट्राली का केस या मैडम ने अभी जो बताया टेकिकार्डिया, उस समय वैदेही का या मैडम का पल्स नहीं देखा, उस समय उनका भी बड़े वाह होगा.
And that patient, I tell you, she can, मतलब उसको समझ में आ रहा था कि हमको टेंशन है. वो हमको बोल रही थी, मैडम मुझे कुछ भी प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, आप क्यों इतने परेशान हो रहे हो.
मैम लेकिन इस तरह की कॉम्प्लिकेशंस जो प्रीवियस फीमेल चिल्ड्रन होते हैं जिसको एंड दे आर वरीड अबाउट मेल, मतलब कहते हैं हैविंग अ मेल दिस टाइम, उन लोगों को ये कॉम्प्लिकेशन ज्यादा होते हैं, ऐसा दिस इज व्हाट आई फील.
नहीं, बट ये जो पेशेंट है ना, इसको हमने सेडेट भी किया था, डाइक्लोफेनेक भी लगाया फॉर पेन, सेडेट भी किया, बट स्टिल हर पल्स रेज व्हाट सेम. यूजुअली जिनको जैसे टेंशन होता है या पेन होता है, आफ्टर गिविंग पेन किलर एंड सेडेशन दे बिकम ऑल राइट.
Ma'am, should we routinely get an ECG done for all the patients with tachycardia in pregnancy?
No, it should be done, I think. With tachycardia, it should be done. At least you should have a baseline thing.
More than 1 thing. With pulse rate more than 1
I have come across at least. Hello. Madam,
yes,
I have come across at least 10 such antenatal patients in which there was tachycardia, and they have been sent to physician and cardiologist for this sort of an opinion. So I have a very low threshold of getting a ECG and cardiology checkup done nowadays for my antenatal patients.
At least we are safe. If we refer the patient to a physician, at least we are safe that that the whole workup is done. After examining tachycardia, anemia, anxious behavior of the patient, if we have excluded all those things, and if still there is tachycardia, we should refer. At least we are safe.
My say is the anxiety of patient, it is better to avoid our anxiety than the anxiety of the patient.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, ma'am, for sure. Ma'am, I had one patient. She was on Labetalol 200 mg BD. Her blood pressure used to be 180, 110, 120, something like that. I referred to her to a physician, but the physician gave the diagnosis of white coat hypertension. Hello. Yes, Arjun.
I'm trying to connect Leela Joshi, ma'am.
Madam is there?
Yeah.
Good morning, ma'am.
किसी का केस नहीं
Good
लगा.
morning, ma'am.
आप सब आपको कनेक्ट करना चाहते हैं. आपसे कनेक्ट करना चाहते हैं. हेलो.
मैम आप जो बोलोगे सब कुछ नहीं दे रहा.
Good morning, Leela Joshi, ma'am.
Very, very good morning. I am so happy you have started this. You all deserve Dr. was wonderful. Because I must say that the patient was very lucky that come to this topic. And it was so well managed. Actually, all those odd time of COVID. Hello.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Hello, I am audible, na?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Please give you such things who can also might bear to the present the president. They had taken. There are lots of Hello.
Everyone is able to hear. It is better.
Ma'am, we are able to hear you and we are very thankful to you for taking all the pains and joining the session here.
At least once in a month. Make us very good.
So now we have our next and last speaker with us today. Due to some reason, Dr. Vadhani ma'am is not able to present here today. But ma'am, we will not leave you like this. For sure, next time we'll love to hear your
Definitely. Yeah. I am really
And
wanting
thank
to
you so much,
present
ma'am, for joining
because of some unavoidable circumstances.
Right.
I'll
Ma'am, we are able to join. Thank you so much for that.
I can share your PPT over here, and you can just say whatever you want to say, and I'll run the PPT at my end. If you want, we can do
Thank
that.
you, Arjun, for that. Welcome, Dr. Asha, ma'am.
Yes.
Please start your presentation, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Hello, everybody is listening to me?
Yes, ma'am.
I am very sorry. I must congratulate to Dr. Subedar and Sefali and Vedehi. They have represented a very nice way. The cases and discussion was also very good going on. On behalf of Pharmacist, I am also thankful to them to create this nice activity of the rocks. I could not prepare my slides because of I don't know what reason, but I'm just representing myself a few experience of the placenta acrita cases. I'm just representing this case. I think so. You everybody listening. Or first of case, we are all burning problems is a placenta acrita with us, or I think so. Day by day, these cases are increasing because of the increasing rates of cesarean. It is say like that because of increasing. We don't have a reason why cesarean why placenta acrita is going to increase by previous with the previous season, but the main reason was I read in the book that it is the absent of the it is placenta adherent to the myometrium due to absent decidua basalis, or maybe previous scar may be disturbed the endometrium, maybe too, yeah, something like that. So we don't know the exact reason of the placenta acrita, but definitely we are come acrossing these cases. I am just representing few of my experience with the placenta acrita. One of case it is absolutely almost 25 years back, previous Caesar, and we take her for the cesarean. At that time, the only thing is only thing sonography was doing. Color Doppler, I think, was not available. They have given only placenta previa, grade 3. We operated the case. Caesar was done in a routine manner, baby delivered. Then the bleeding was coming from the posterior surface of the placenta, bleeding. And that time we was not that time aware of a uterine artery ligation, yeah, and the ballooning and everything. So we did the cesarean hysterectomy, but still there was bleeding from the stump side. Uh, we did the total hysterectomy, and the bleeding was coming from the stump side. We called the surgeon. He put some stitches over there, but still there was bleeding. And ultimately, uh, ultimately ultimately the anesthetist was vitals were going down, so anesthetist was in a hurry to please close the abdomen. Luckily, we do one packing in a stump, and we have closed the patient, and the patient shifted to the room. Then we have given enough blood, about 12 bottles of blood, and patient was survived. So by God blessing, just packing to the stump, remaining stump, and bleeding was stopped. This was that time the blood products were not available. Second case of mine is patient was referred from the Jaora, have a cervical circulation and leaking membrane. For 2 days, I removed the stitches. I waited till the leaking was stopped or something like that. It was also a case. It's very bad, about almost 20 years back. So the third day she was having a IUD. She delivered normally, and but there was a there was profuse bleeding after packing, but bleeding was not stopped. Taken for taken for the hysterectomy. We did we did hysterectomy, but still bleeding was coming. That time the patient's general condition was not good. Patients, we closed the abdomen. We have done the subtotal hysterectomy. That time we have closed the abdomen, but after then toileting the vagina, there was profuse bleeding coming from cervical stump. So we could not do anything. The vitals are very bad. So and that time she shifted to room, but we could not survive the patient. She was very young lady, and the stump. In my opinion, when the placenta, something is remaining in the stump, it is very bad. I think so. Third case we did just recently in a lockdown period. The patient was young, 36 years, previous Caesar, baby was 10 years old, and the first baby was the 10 year cesarean baby. So we would complete placenta previa. Nowadays, we thank to God we have a lot of things to diagnose, and we did this MRI, and in MRI report they have given the placenta accreta is there, but it is very small portion, about 2.6 centimeter. So we have operated for Caesar, and placenta baby delivered normally, placenta removed, and both the uterines we have tied, but still bleeding is coming from where the placental insertion was, from the, I think, posterior surface. There was few stitches, one or two was given, but still, bleeding was not stopped. So we have applied the Foley's catheter, and Foley's balloon, and closed the abdomen. Then after some time, the bleeding was stopped dramatically. There was bleeding from vagina is very less, and about 100 to 200 cc. So Foley's catheter, I think so, it works very well. Everybody has to try it. Send blood and blood product. We have only given 2 PCV, 2 FFP. So patient was post-operative recovery was very well. Foley's catheter was kept for the 24 hours. And second case I have came across it. I could not. Uh, I have only diagnosed she has a complete placenta previa. An MRI report was there was the placenta accreta about almost almost a very big area of the placenta accreta invading to the stump also, cervical stump also. And that time, so that patient was went to Ahmedabad because her native place was there. She went there. There she operated, and uh, I came across to know that she has a cesarean hysterectomy with the bladder injury also. Here, all the complication I explained to her, but she was not ready. Then as such, by God blessing, I was also not ready to operate her, and she was ready to go Ahmedabad. She operated that. I think she is very well, is there. So, in my opinion, always keep it in mind. In stump, if the placenta is coming into the stump, then it is very difficult to treat the patient. Thank you so much. Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Hello?
Thank you for the presentation. Thank you.
Madam, how much fluid was put in Foley's catheter?
50 ml to the full capacity of the tank.
Sorry, ma'am. Please repeat the question, ma'am.
How much distilled water was put in Foley's catheter? What was, I mean, like, quantity of fluid in Foley's catheter for stopping the bleeding?
Thank you.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, question was how much fluid was the catheter was filled with how much fluid? Asha, ma'am. Hello, Asha, ma'am. Vadhwani, ma'am, the Foley's bulb was filled with around 50 ml of fluid.
Yeah, because if you exceed that 50 ml, it usually bursts.
Yes. It was 45 to
No,
50 ml.
its capacity is 30 to 50 cc. So exactly 50. Yeah, it is written on the Foley's catheter also.
Ji, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ji,
So
madam.
I think so. Okay. It
50
works very
cc.
well. I think so. We everybody has to try for Foley's catheter. Easy.
Ji, ma'am.
Hello. I think so. My take home message is that everybody should have MRI at the 32 weeks because it is very informative and more than that color Doppler, because color Doppler is not giving the exact idea, but MRI, and nowadays MRI is available in Ratlam. So everybody has to go for MRI in 32 weeks. Exactly the idea can be given at the 32 weeks, because before that we can't have, they don't give any idea.
Yes, ma'am. MRI is a quite very useful diagnostic tool.
Madam,
It gives idea to us, and it is useful for us to explain the patient the complications.
Exactly, we can take. We should take the case or not. How much invade of the placenta in the uterus myometrium. This is this is the thing we can know from the MRI only.
Madam, any experience of keeping the placenta in utero and stitching the uterus and giving methotrexate?
No. Methotrexate can be given if you are leaving the placenta inside. If you feel that placental all placental tissue we could not remove, then you should give the methotrexate post-operatively, one injection, and third day one injection you can give to prevent the bleeding. But if you are on the table, you have to almost all precautions should be taken to stop the bleeding. Placenta methotrexate in every case, even if the retained. Just now we did one DNC for the missed abortion. It was the old missed abortion of the 10 weeks. We did the DNC. We could not remove the whole things. The next day we have seen the by sonography, there was almost I think so 6 centimeter of PCCs was there on in the utero, but it was difficult to do the second time DNC in the very second day. So we have given the methotrexate 1 injection and call her third day 1 injection on the third day. Then after 15 days, but patient did not return up, so we could not have exactly what happened. Methotrexate, I think so, worked very well because in my experience, I have post DNC also. I have used the methotrexate.
Hello, madam. When I was there in Bombay, Dr. Asha Singhal madam used to do MRI for all placenta previa patients.
Yes,
and
it is
if
there.
That
it should be
patient
there.
was, invasion was more than 2 centimeter of the placenta, then what they used to do is tie the placental umbilical cord just near to the placenta and keep it like that only and give methotrexate 2 doses. Placenta used to come out after a period of 1 to 2 weeks. Per vagina, it used to come out.
Okay, that I don't have idea. But one more case,
two cases I've seen during my PG period, and both the patient, the placenta was not at all touched. We were given an instruction that you're not supposed to try and separate the placenta while doing cesarean section. What you just have to remove the baby and tie the placenta umbilical cord as you routinely do. After finishing off with cleaning and everything, holding off your Ellis forceps and everything, you just cut a piece of umbilical cord as much is outside the placenta. You just tie it very tightly and keep the placenta there only. You don't even try to remove that placenta.
Right. Can be possible. But I'm just telling the placenta, if you will leave inside, it is said it is necrotizing itself. Because I have one case very in my locum tenens, I think in my beginning of the career, I came across one IUFD of the 5 months. That time sonography was also not available. Only thing, the heartbeat was not there. And then that time I just given this M cradle inside. I have given the M cradle. M cradle amniotic. Only thing the M cradle I under put it, but no result was there for the 3 days. Then we operated her. It came to be a broad ligament, dead fetus in a broad ligament. With the help of surgeon, I called the surgeon. I could not do anything. That time we removed only baby and closed the abdomen. Or surprisingly, the patient was all right, absolutely all right. There was nothing happened to post-operatively even after 6 months also. Then she did not turn up about the conceive or whether she conceived or not. This can be happen. That time we don't know about the methotrexate and anything.
Recently by Nagpur Society, there was one lecture by Dr. Fidvi. Hello? There was one lecture by Dr. Fidvi by Nagpur Society. This was on placenta previa only, placenta previa and accreta. So what he said that in every case of placenta previa, MRI should be done.
Yes.
And the radiologist should be requested to tell the exact location and the size of the placenta which is invading the myometrium. And if it is, and if it is posterior, still it is better, because what he said, in posterior placenta accreta, you remove the placenta, and wherever the small area where you are not able to remove the placenta, you just apply deep figure of 8 stitches in that area. If it is anterior, you should be very sure whether it is invading the urinary bladder or not. If it is invading urinary bladder, it is very difficult. It is most difficult to manage. Under those conditions, it should be left and methotrexate should be given. Or if it is near os also, it is very difficult. In anterior accreta, what he said, if it is not invading the urinary bladder, then you try to remove placenta as much as it is and try dissect the bladder quite downwards and resect the piece of myometrium where there is placental invasion and then restitch it. That is just what I have heard in that lecture. Practically, I have never seen anybody doing it, or even I have not done it. Because resection of anterior lower segment of myometrium and then resuturing it in case of anterior placenta accreta.
मैडम उधर इतनी बड़ी बड़ी ब्लड वेसल्स होते हैं कि मतलब कहते हैं आपको वैसे ही कोई चीज को स्टिच करना बहुत डिफिकल्ट लगता है क्योंकि ब्लड वेसल्स में ही चले जाता है.
Definitely. After that also this question was there that it is very difficult to resect the lower segment of uterus and then restitching it. But that's what he said in his lecture. A very senior obstetrician, I think must be 75 now.
Radiologist always, if you will ask to the radiologist, they are giving exact idea how much placenta accreta in what about the area. Not exactly that they count it, but the about the things that it is the large one, small one, they can say, but exact size it is involving the stump or till the they can't say about these things. So if the placenta accreta more than I think so half of the placenta accreta involving the uterus side. So I think it's very difficult to control the bleeding. Hysterectomy, bladder will always injure in that cases. Because we have done almost this time previous season. In previous season, you cannot retract the bladder also too much of downwards. So total hysterectomy is very difficult.
Okay. Ma'am, I wanted to ask one question. These days, I was going through some of the literatures and something, and they said the way we suture the uterus with the interlocking sutures, that is a cause of adherent placenta. Matlab, when we close the uterus with interlocking sutures, the chances of adhesions, the chances of placenta being adherent in the subsequent pregnancy increases. So they were advising continuous suturing or closure of the uterus. Any advice?
Logic.
Necrosis is more when there is an interlocking suture. Whenever we are giving interlocking suture, the necrosis of the area is more because blood supply decreases very much with the interlocking sutures. And scar is not that healthy with interlocking suture as much as it is in the continuous suture. But the problem with continuous suture is it at times give you bleeding. Like that immediately that hemostasis is not as good as it is in the interlocking. So both the things have their pros and cons. If you give continuous suture and you're happy with the hemostasis, you can continue with continuous suture. But if you're not comfortable and your bleeding is a problem at the time of cesarean section, then interlocking suture is a better thing.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. I was very confused with this when I was reading it.
When you give a continuous suture, that is what they were saying in a cesarean webinar. They were saying.
Yes, I heard it. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Any more questions?
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Once I remember long back in MY, even Sunita must also be remembering, there was a workshop by Dr. V.N. Purandare.
Yes.
So what he said that what we stitch uterus is not a hemostatic suture, it is approximation. So even if we interlocking we do, it should not be tightened too much. Where there is vessel, it is okay, but otherwise we should not tighten it too much. That's what he said. That whatever we close the uterus after cesarean, it is approximation of the two layers of uterus. It is not hemostatic suture. If the edges are not bleeding actively, then we need not worry much about it.
Previously, madam, you remember we are suturing the uterus in a one layer, if you remember. I think so it is 10 to 15 years back. Then we started to lock the uterus in a 2 layers.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Yes, Subedar madam. I
Yeah.
don't think at that time also we had some problem previous of single layer suturing, bleeding, and all these things. If you remember,
Yeah.
I am still remembering. Previously we were suturing uterus in a one layer only, right, madam?
No, madam, शुरू में तो 2 layer में करते थे catgut से. We used to stitch it with catgut, but in 2 layers.
Not in beginning. Not in beginning. Not in beginning. This is the era came in 15 to 20 years back. In my beginning, I sutured only in a one layer, and I never remember that there was PPH or
What
something.
we were taught in MY was 2 layer closure with catgut.
Catgut, we were using the catgut.
Not interlocking.
Madam, one more question. They are recently saying that you should close both the corners of the uterus and then do continue with this. I mean, like before closing the uterus scar, you should put a stitch on both the corners of the uterus.
Sudhar ma'am does that even now, ma'am.
Yeah.
I have learned that during my PG.
Even I start from one corner, stitch up to half, then start from another corner, come in the middle. So I still do that.
Okay. So the knot is put in the middle.
Knot is put in the middle, yes. Means
And then what about the second layer, ma'am?
I'm on the right side of the patient. I'll start from the left side. I'll come up to middle. Then I will just hold the vicryl, cut it. Then I'll start it from the right side. Then I'll again come up to middle, and then knot I'll put in the middle. I do.
Then what about the second layer, ma'am?
Huh?
What about the second layer, ma'am?
Okay.
No, in one layer only.
Only one layer.
Yeah.
Can you include the parietal peritoneum with this, ma'am?
No. The parietal, why should you?
Sorry, visceral, not the parietal. The visceral peritoneum
We
with
are
this
not.
stitch?
We are not closing any parietal. Any peritoneum.
Uterocycal fold, we are not stitching.
Okay.
I used to suture a uterus in a 2 layer, but only one vicryl coming from one side to another side, cornu close, and that vicryl again I started from their side to another side, right to left, left to right. On half vicryl of the round body needle, I closed it. I don't close any peritoneum, neither parietal, neither visceral, because it is said if you are. Ek minute. If you one thing I will telling you, I read in a news journal that if you are closing the parietal peritoneum, then there was some gap from where the peritoneum coming out. Then omentum coming out, and it gives sometimes strangulation. This I have read. And from that, I never close both the peritoneum.
Subedar ma'am, what is the advantage of knot in between the uterus?
No, there is no.
Compared
it is just a technique. It is just a technique that it gives me satisfaction that both the corners are secured.
Secured. Okay.
That is the only thing. Otherwise, it has no added advantage.
Okay,
Anybody can do it his or her own style wherever we are comfortable and we are more confident. And there is no extra advantage.
Okay, ma'am.
One more question, ma'am. Ma'am, if we know that it is the placenta accreta and the invasion is more than 2 centimeters, so how can we take the precaution during operation?
No. If the 2 centimeter accreta is not much more, where you can deliver baby normally, placenta will remove completely, and the placenta accreta which was adherent was removing out, but their bleeding from that side may be there. So more precaution in bleeding from that side. You have to close both the uterines, and in my case, it was 2.6 centimeter. Placenta was we delivered placenta completely.
Okay.
And for bleeding from that side, where the placenta came out, on insertion side, there was bleeding from that side. So for closing that thing, we compression by Foley's catheter. We kept Foley's catheter for compression of that thing.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes, I think for placenta previa and bleeding of this thing, bilateral uterine artery ligation is a very
safe,
helpful,
very safe.
Yes, very safe and helpful
We
step
can
for
do
us.
it before starting the operation.
Before removing the placenta, ma'am.
Before surgery.
Before removing before removing the placenta after the baby.
Yes, ma'am. Can it be done before removing the baby?
No, how it's possible? You cannot get the uterine artery also. It's a big uterus, it is very difficult. It's not possible.
And we might end up breaking the baby as well. ना पता चला उसके बाल बांध दिए. Like
let the uterus contracted after removing baby and placenta. But very difficulty. I am this thing with placenta previa. It's very difficult to do to go through the placenta and deliver the baby. This is the main point. Because when you open the uterus, that placenta came peep up out like. Very difficult to go through the placenta, and that time also there was a huge bleeding. This experience I have seen almost at placenta previa. I operated almost 10 to 12 cases, and every time this is the definitely it is happened. Everybody has happened. So don't start to pulling the placenta, but you first deliver the baby. Go through the placenta, cut and go through the placenta, and take the baby out. It is temptation. We should remove the placenta. It came out. We should remove the. No, nothing like that. But you first should deliver the baby. Anyhow, is it, Madam Suveda?
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone. Any more questions? Okay.
Joshi Madam, I am just asking if Madam Joshi is there. I am just asking Madam's experience. Is there because we are doing the tubectomy with the cesarean almost if the third Caesar, fourth Caesar are if taking full consent of the patient, husband and everywhere and explain about very well about them, then we have we should do it or we should not at all do it. Madam Joshi, I am asking you because your experience is very well about this thing. Hello.
Ma'am, I think Leela Joshi ma'am will not be able to talk.
So what about the Dolly? I think Dolly bhi nahi hai.
Even Sunita Wadhwani ma'am might be having idea about the medical legal aspect of this thing. Wadhwani ma'am.
Just fail to listen.
Sunita ma'am, the question is medical legally we can do tubectomy with cesarean or not?
Rule regarding this. We had a talk. I mean, in Manipal, we had a conference where we had a talk about the same thing, whether we can do. There are in medical, I mean, in civil hospitals, they are regularly doing it. And the things which are regularly being done at civil hospitals cannot be a rule for a private practice. And there is no defined rule that you cannot do cesarean. So they always say that it is better because tubectomy comes as a very strong legal case when it is like when something happens to the patient. After not doing tubectomy with LACS was because the mortality rate of tubectomy would increase. कि अगर LACS का कोई complication और उसके कारण patient expire होता है तो उन लोग का जो डाटा है the data they are collecting इतने लोगों का ट्यूबेक्टोमी हुआ है और उसमें से इतनी मॉर्टेलिटीज हुई है. So if they are doing tubectomy with LHS, the mortality of LHS would be counted in tubectomy. That was the reason they had started saying don't do tubectomy with LHS. But there is no defined rule saying that you cannot do LHS with tubectomy.
चलो.
And thank everyone for this. We had a good interaction, and I hope to have such sessions, such more sessions in future. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Pharmacist, for all. I think the session is done for now. I, on behalf of our president, Dr. Manisha Maheshwari ma'am was not able to join us today here. I would like to thank all our speakers, Dr. Asha Saraf ma'am, Dr. Purnima Subedar ma'am, Dr. Shefali, Dr. Vedehi. I wholeheartedly thank all my speakers and all the eminent members of Ratlam Society who joined us here today to make this session a success. It was a very good interactive session, and I hope to have more such sessions in future because these are of help, at least to us, our juniors. Thanks a lot to everyone for sharing their experiences. In the end, I would like to thank Team Pharmacist, Mr. Arjun, Mr. Vijay Jain, Mr. O.P. Mehar for organizing this session. Thank you all. Bye for today. Bye-bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone. Thank you all the guests for joining this session. It was a wonderful one. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
ma'am.
Arjun.
Thank you, all of you. From the behalf of the pharmacist, I am Vijay Jain from Gwalior. I am very pleased to listen all of you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for organizing this session. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, ma'am. It's my welcome.
Thank you.